So today I'm here with Maz, with Geovert. We are going to have a conversation between the two of us about our different experiences having kind of come up in different generations and different time periods. Um, we're going to dive into the different pathways that we've both kind of taken, and both of them are a little bit unconventional. So we're going to see what we can learn from Maz and see what we can learn from myself and just have a casual conversation. So, Maz, if you want to introduce yourself, here's the
Sure.
floor.
Thanks, Hannah. Yeah, Marianne Rogers is my name, but everybody calls me Maz. And yeah, I'm a mining engineer by profession. I graduated quite some time ago and have spent a bit of time in the mining industry and it's the civil construction industry. And since joining Geovert, it's been really nice because I've managed to join together those industries. And it's a really nice combination of civil construction and mining and ground support. I used to be the general manager of Geovert, but I'm now working part-time and I head up the new business group.
Sweet. And you're in New Zealand.
Yeah. I graduated in New Zealand and went to Australia. I spent a long time working in the mining industry in Australia. Wanted to come home. I was really homesick. I love New Zealand. And I moved back with a mining company, worked on the West Coast where a lot of coal mines are situated on the west coast of the South Island.
Mhm.
And then when the Christchurch earthquakes happened, there was a massive rebuild effort, and I got pulled into that with a company called McConnell Dow, a major construction company in New Zealand, and I worked for them for several years. And I ended up working in Auckland, and it's where I jumped ship to join Geovert. But I had worked with Geovert previously in the Christchurch rebuild, and they worked for McConnell Dow on a project I was working on, and they were amazing. I was really impressed with the company. I was really impressed with the professionalism and the focus on safety and the energy and the awesome stuff they did. Yeah.
Gotcha. Sweet. So, I guess what originally got you into like mining and construction? What made you even want to like major in that in school?
An obsession with geology. A lot of people, I think, growing up in New Zealand, and I think you're a bit the same too, Hannah, obsessed with rocks, geology, volcanoes, earthquakes, the whole thing. And
Base.
I
Yeah.
originally wanted to be a volcanologist, but I got a scholarship to do mining engineering through the New Zealand State Coal Mines at the time, which was a government-owned enterprise.
Mhm.
And so I thought, well, it's maths, it's physics, it's geology, all good. So I ended up doing mining engineering and I loved it. I loved working underground. I loved the all the equipment, blowing things up, the people, the energy, the
Seeing things
pure
being built.
weirdness of it all.
Mhm.
From a grew up in a pretty normal mid New Zealand suburb and ended up in the outback of Australia working, 500 meters underground and massive mines and everything. Just
So
amazing
did you
experience.
have did you have anybody like close to you, like your parents or relatives that was in this industry, or was it really geology that,
It was
I
geology
guess,
that
sparked you?
dragged me
Okay.
in. Yeah, I've always been fascinated with it. And my father's a civil engineer.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a slight connection there with the engineering piece. And it's kind
Mm-hmm.
of nice that I've been working in the civil construction industry recently because it's just given me an insight into his career and what he did.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a little bit different than like the even the mining world. Like they kind of all combine in the same world, but they play different roles and kind of have different, I guess, yeah, different roles, different parts.
yeah. There's similarities, using big gear, excavators, haul trucks, um, all that dirt moving stuff.
Heavy
And
civil.
yeah, a lot of big mines in Australia, but you need to do a lot of civil engineering to actually build the infrastructure for the mine, from the
Mm-hmm.
shafts to the head frames to processing plants, all of that stuff is quite an engineering effort to even get the mine up and running before you can extract
Yeah.
the resource. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. So I guess with mining, were you really interested in like a certain part of it initially with like operations or the planning or the remediation?
Operations. Oh,
Okay.
just going underground. It's just like an alternative world,
Hmm.
going deep
It is.
underground
It's
and
literally, yeah.
chasing, chasing shiny bits of rock.
Hmm.
Never was huge on coal, although I have worked in
Hmm.
coal. But I was really intrigued with metalliferous mining, gold and copper, and that kind of thing. And you'd be underground with, grey rock around you, and then the next minute there's this shiny stuff in the face, and you're like, okay, we've found the copper, or the quartz reef, and then you chase
Yeah.
it, and it's cool. And blowing things up is a really awesome part of the job as well.
Right. I feel like there's so much to mining that people don't really realize or like it's there as like an
Absolutely.
option. But did you feel like there I guess was a part of um construction that you went into that made you miss like a certain, I guess, part of mining specifically? Did you move into heavy civil? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, yeah. So the first civil job I worked on was the Sumner Road remediation project, and
Hmm.
it actually had a strong mining component to it. One
Hmm.
of our subcontractors was a mining contractor who had to excavate this 100,000 cubic meters of material at the foot of these cliffs. So in the case of a
Hmm.
future earthquake, there's going to be a bench there to catch any rocks that come down. So
Hmm.
that was kind of nice to have that crossover. And a big part of what Geovert do in terms of drilling and scaling and ground control, that's a big part of mining as well. Okay,
Yeah, the
the drill,
contracting side of
yeah,
it.
the
Hmm.
drill rigs are different, but it's still drilling. It's still installing rock bolts, or, soil
Just
nails.
different
It's
safety
still
standards. Hmm.
safety standards are probably just as strict.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, absolutely. I've seen in the mining industry, one of the key takeaways is it is a very high hazard industry.
Hmm.
And one of the major hazards is rockfall to people, to the workers, and to gear.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, equipment.
it is critical to get the ground support right. And I've seen some things which were pretty upsetting in
Yeah.
my time.
Hmm.
And it is probably, and that's what I love about GeoVert, I guess, because it is all about ground control. It's about slope
Hmm.
stabilization. It's about protecting people, protecting roads,
Minimizing that
protecting
risk. Hmm.
assets, and
Being
it's
proactive.
something I'm passionate about, making sure
Hmm.
that people aren't exposed to rockfall hazards. That's
Yeah.
what
You and me
that's
both.
basically
That's why
what
we're
we
here,
do.
Maz.
That's
Yeah, that's
that's
why
what
we're
we do
here.
at GeoVert.
Hmm. Yeah, I get
So
excited about the same thing, so it makes
yeah,
total sense. And this, I
yeah.
want to ask because hearing how passionate you are, it makes me surprised that you even decided to go and pursue the law side of things because it's such a different world. So we don't have to go super deep into it if you don't want to, but what made you decide to do that?
Oh, a number of things. I was living in the outback, was kind of looking at the job opportunities and thought, am I just going to go from mining town to mining town to mining town through my career?
Mhm.
Um, and I do like law, don't get me wrong. I love the law. I loved
Hmm.
studying law. Um, it's fascinating, really,
Has its
in terms
place.
of yeah, in terms of the way language is used, the way there's a whole philosophy of law around how we organize ourselves as a society, as a
Wow.
civilization, as
Yeah.
how we operate, right? Um,
Mhm. Kind of its own
uh,
art, I feel like that
it
it's like
is
if you're an
totally,
outsider, it's hard to understand. I think that's how I feel at least.
yeah, and it gives you an insight into the world around you,
Mhm.
why we do the things we do, why we have the laws we have, why we have. I know it's a hot topic at the moment, but how constitutions work,
Mhm.
how the the role of courts and the judiciary in government, and the role of Parliament or Congress, and the role of, the head of state. And all of that stuff is fascinating, and it impacts every part of our daily lives.
Everybody. Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody. It
Yeah.
impacts everybody. And a lot of people don't even understand like the structure, what it entails, how important it
Yeah.
is, how it keeps
Yeah.
everything kind of running.
Yeah.
So so that interested you. That makes sense because I've worked on a political campaign before. Like that was the closest I got to going into that world, and I came right back out of it because I was like, this is all conflict. I don't want to be in a
Mm-hmm.
environment that's based off and built off of that because I want to build people up. And with a two-party system here, it's like there's, I guess, I feel like, especially with litigation and how willing people are to sue you, it's like it's just a whole life based on conflict, but it's such an important part of any country, any
Absolutely.
society, and to have knowledge and understanding of contract language, which is law, I feel like gives you an upper hand
Absolutely.
that you wouldn't have had otherwise, right? Is that how you feel?
Correct. I learned so much. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I practiced law, well, for about a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then
That's
I'm
all you
like,
needed to know.
I could earn more money in the mining industry, and
Mm-hmm. Less stress,
um,
maybe, or a different kind of stress.
different kind of stress.
Mm-hmm.
And though I found the office environment in a corporate law firm very, uh, how do I say it?
Oh, my dad was a lawyer, so I know I can envision it. It's
I
very
had to wear
drab
the
and
right
dry
clothes, the high
and
heeled shoes,
mm-hmm.
The
Opposite
suit
of
for
construction,
work,
I feel like.
and everybody behaved in a certain way. Whereas construction, I just feel like there's a lot more room for individual self-expression, creativity, and engineers are really smart people.
Mm-hmm.
I, we've got this sort of idea that lawyers are smart, and yes, they are, don't get me wrong. And engineers don't have the same sort of visibility in the world that lawyers do. There's always programs about lawyers being clever and winning court cases and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's never been, I don't know if there's been any programs about an engineering firm and the drama that goes on in an engineering firm.
Right.
It
Only
sounds
if there's
really
like massive
boring.
failures. Yeah, only if there's massive
Oh.
failures, maybe. But I feel like they're kind of, same with doctors, like lawyers are doctors at law, engineers are doctors at like infrastructure and geology. And like that's
Yeah,
how I see it at least. So it's kind of
yeah,
just learning this new language that you get to apply like now and what you do now and understanding like just, yeah, I guess like environmental legislation and if you're doing contracts or if you're looking at a bid item and trying to decide if you want to do a project, you're able to probably understand language better than someone like me who doesn't even I don't want to be a lawyer. I don't want to like even try to be. So it's tough to read that kind of stuff and want to know what it says. I almost just want to be like, no, I'm smart at this, but I don't want to have to also know this because they're two different worlds. So, do you miss it at all?
yeah. Well, I guess I was probably like that too. I just wanted to, get my hands dirty and make stuff
Mm-hmm.
happen on the site.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and as I grew through my career, I wanted to understand things better, how the company worked, how the contracts worked, how yeah, the business operated. And then I think the interest in understanding the commercial side of the business comes naturally. So
Mm-hmm.
I think if you allowed time, you'll probably find you in a few years' time you might be quite interested in it. I think it's part of the natural
Yeah.
progression from starting out as an engineer on the ground to developing your
Yeah.
way through. Yeah,
I think you're right. It's a lot to try and learn the engineering side, the technical construction side, and also that contractual and law side all at the same time if they're both foreign
correct.
to you. But yeah, if
Yeah,
you spend more time and doing the technical stuff and gaining experience, I feel like it would make sense that the contracts, if you understand the technical part that they're putting into it, then it just makes it that much easier.
yeah.
So Just to segue onto kind of another topic, obviously in construction and mining, we're a minority. For you, what has been the biggest shift in how women are accepted in mining and construction that you've witnessed, given that have your background that you can go into of being, I think the first woman to go underground in New Zealand mine, right?
First woman to graduate in mining engineering. And, women have gone underground, but
Mhm.
they weren't allowed to work underground per se,
Mhm.
as a miner.
Mhm.
Of course, geologists and surveyors and people like that could go underground, but
Mhm.
and do their bit and then go back up.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, around the time I graduated, it was illegal for women to work underground as miners in New Zealand, which is why I went to Australia.
I
Australia
love
had
that.
just sort of started moving in the direction of allowing women to work underground as miners. And when I first started, it was a rare thing. Now it's a lot more
Mhm.
common. There's a lot more industry acceptance of, and even more than acceptance, embracing of women on mine sites.
Mhm.
They're a really important part of the workforce. I've heard, and it could be a bit sexist, but I've heard that they actually look after equipment better. That
Yeah, I mean, to
you
an
have women
extent.
driving trucks, haul trucks, that kind of thing. And yeah, a really smart, valuable part of the workforce. And that was rare. That was rare when I graduated.
Mhm.
I think the industry is definitely shifting in favor of having more women, across the board. I still hear though, through friends and networks that there's still, unfortunately, there's probably more sexism than I realise. Maybe not institutional or structural sexism um, in organisations, but in terms of behaviours and how certain individuals may talk about or include or exclude women engineers or labourers or workers or equipment operators. There's
Like the
still stuff
subtle.
going on. I don't see it
Mhm.
so much now, and
Mhm.
I've probably had to deal with it so long. You know,
Blocked it out.
I kind of, maybe the water off a duck's back. I don't notice it, or I know how to deal with it. But
Mhm.
younger women, especially starting out in their career, I know I felt very vulnerable at the beginning of my
Mhm.
career in terms of, some of the behaviours I saw and experienced and
Mhm.
didn't know how to deal with it.
Mhm.
And I still think women can feel vulnerable, particularly if they're, say, the only woman on a work site or something like that. And
Mhm.
I think, it's on all of us, and it's on the men who who are the majority on the work site to make sure that women do feel safe and included.
Welcome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and a part of the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder too how that differs, like if it's like across cultures or if it's different, like each country. I bet it's probably similar across the industries. But how do you feel like being in a male-dominated industry has shaped where you are now and influenced it?
I I guess I don't know.
Yeah, you're like,
um
I don't know what my life would be like
there's
otherwise.
no control mares, right? If
Mhm.
control mares
Yeah,
went into
exactly.
it.
Makes sense. Yeah. Because it's like you, if that
um
was your life, it was kind of just how you had to adapt, and you don't really
yeah,
think of the alternative because it's not real, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Yeah.
um I guess everybody's life experiences shapes them in a certain way.
Hmm.
We're all shaped by our experiences and what we go through and the choices we make. um So yeah, I'm definitely a product of the mining industry in Australia and New Zealand, and a product of the civil construction industry, and also a product of my upbringing and a product of
Hmm.
the
The
friends.
environment.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
totally. Do you feel like you would have, had you known that like you would have gone through what you did with the male-dominated industry and known the obstacles you were going to face, would you have chosen to do it all
probably,
again?
if someone tells me I can't do something, I want to
I'm
go
the
and
same
do it.
way. Yeah, I'm the same way. Hell yeah. I love
So,
that.
and I was raised by a feminist mother who told
I
me
love
girls
that.
can do anything. So
Yeah.
it was almost to the point where I kind of knew that it would be difficult, but I
hmm
thought I'm going to do it anyway because if I want to do it because I wanted to. I wanted to work
hmm
underground. I wanted to blow things up. I wanted to have that experience. I wanted to have that career. That there was another part of it that's, well, if I do this and just be myself and be the best I can be, then maybe
hmm
it's going to make it easier for other women who come along too.
That's
Yeah. So
trailblazer. Yeah.
we've all got to
That's
do
what
our
that is.
bit. Yeah.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all we can
Sweet.
do. But yeah, I just wanted to say, shout out. There's been some awesome men I've worked with who've been so supportive. And our CEO Ant Teen's one of them. He's
hmm
very proactive in terms of supporting and developing women in our industry. And I've had previous bosses at McConnell Dow and Peabody Energy. So that's a great US company, Peabody Energy. They're massive.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been, there are some wonderful people in industry and
hmm
wonderful champions of women amongst
Yeah.
our male leaders
Yeah, we
in
need them.
industry.
We really need our allies to champion us. And that was a big reason I came to
Yeah,
Geovert actually was because seeing you being championed and being celebrated and admired, I was like, well, I want to be not treated the same because we're not the same, but I want to be in an environment where I'm celebrated and appreciated and, championed. And, I think men should also be celebrated and championed, but to have our own specific kind of movements to just bringing awareness to women in mining or women in construction or women in engineering.
yeah.
Like we need to do that if we want other women or other girls behind us to want to be in our place. If they don't know that that's an option, if they don't know that that exists, it takes the allies, it takes us on and showing
Mm,
that awareness to be like, yes, this might be a difficult industry. It might be not as, female dominated as a different, finance or HR, but that doesn't mean that you can't find your place or that you won't have allies that will champion you and include you at the table and
mm,
see you as an asset and a value. There are companies out there are bosses out there are people out there that will do that, and if they're not, it's not worth your time or my time, I've found. And when you do find a
mm,
place and a person and a CEO where that energy is contagious, it's like I don't want to be anywhere else. I want to soak in this and I want to spread it because like that's what's important. It's
yeah.
it's building each other up. It's coming together with shared experiences and similar stories or even differences and really just coming together to educate and empower women if they like shiny rocks and they like being underground and they're not scared of the dark, put them underground, go do tunneling, go do mining, But if you're not
Yeah.
shown that, if all you're shown is being a lawyer, because that's what my dad was, it's like, well, all I know is that sounds pretty boring, but I don't know what else there is out there? So
Yeah.
I guess now, how do you feel like, what are you doing to kind of spread that awareness and mentor the people coming after you?
I have a strong network of women engineer friends, and I'm continuing
Mhm.
to develop those networks. And I don't get exposed to younger engineers unless I'm in the company with them, like you. Previous McConnell
Mhm.
Dow, like I had some younger female engineers who I talk to from time to time.
Mhm.
Always available to help, mentor, guide, just be a sounding board. Um, and I do have women friends in the industry who, we support each other. We intentionally go out of our way to support each other, and not in a organizational sense by joining an organization, but these are informal networks.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just like the
So
people do check
yeah,
in with. Yeah.
yeah, and we help each other with career advice or making introductions and those kinds of things. Um, yeah,
That's a big part
we
of it,
do.
though. It's like
Yeah.
supporting the women already in our industry
Mm,
to keep our
mm,
industry running. And then I feel like it's a whole nother movement of energy, and it takes a lot of effort to put that towards the generation after us. It's getting involved with them and going to like, schools and talking to middle schoolers and telling them about
Mm.
mining and bringing them a rock. Like stuff like that is
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
little, but it's stuff that we can do to be like, okay, how
Mm.
do I showcase and be the person to that kid that I wish I could have seen because it would have maybe saved me a little bit of that heartache. So I feel like
Mm.
you're already giving so much back, and you've given me a lot of insight. And I guess if you had one piece of advice for yourself or yourself before you went to college, what would you say?
Uh, just kind of believe in yourself. It's so easy to say, and it's such an easy thing to say, sometimes hard to do. I think try different things, be curious, have an open mind.
Nice.
Um, yeah, try a thing. If there's an opportunity in front of you, grab it. Because if you say no to an opportunity, you might not get that opportunity again. And there's some saying that apparently at the end of your life, the most of your regrets will be around things you didn't do rather than things you did do.
You did, yeah. That's very
And
true.
so opportunity comes along. I've had opportunities where I've been absolutely terrified, but I've taken it anyway.
Yeah.
And
And you end up like,
learning. If I
mhm.
fall flat on my face, I've had a learning experience, and if or I've succeeded, and that's also been a learning experience and a growth experience. It's all experience. So I
Yeah.
think being curious and open to opportunities and have a go.
Yeah, I say the
Yeah,
same thing. I say try everything because life
yeah,
is too short to settle on something that's not,
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah, not giving you energy or fulfilling or satisfying. So,
yeah.
if you could tell like a young woman that's considering mining and construction, but here's, oh, have you heard, what kind of industry that is and what you're getting yourself into, what kind of, I guess, specific advice would you give someone like that to encourage them to pursue
Go
it?
for it. Just go for it and go and have the experience. You will learn something. You'll learn about the world. You'll learn about yourself. You'll learn whether you like it or not. Um, I think having an engineering degree or a geology degree or something like that, even if you decide in the end that you don't want to go down that career path, you've got a grounding. Sorry for the pun, but you've got a grounding
No, I live for the
for your
fun.
life. You understand a bit more about how the world works. Um, you might have a go at being a site engineer for a construction company like you have. You've done different
Did it?
roles,
Mhm.
and you're trying different things, and you've tried something and you've learned and then decided, oh, this is not quite for me, so try another thing. And I've done that through my career too. I think it's a it's not a realistic expectation to see one's career as a linear, continual upward rise trajectory. I've gone up,
Mhm.
down, sideways, inside out,
Mhm. Loop to
all
loop.
over, and it's all gaining
Mhm.
experience. It's all having fun, trying different things,
Yeah, nothing wasted.
seeing if it works for you or not.
Hmm.
But I'm still learning and growing. I'm still learning now, and I'm getting probably at the opposite end of my career from where you are. But I want to keep going. I want to keep learning. I want to keep trying new things.
I think that's the attitude to have because that's how I feel. Like, I feel like no matter what stage we are in our careers, if you have that kind of mindset and attitude, you're never gonna make a mistake or waste any time because you're only learning more about yourself and what energizes you or what
Absolutely.
doesn't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's why we have a lot in common there because we've had kind of unconventional paths. I've worked on a campaign. I wasn't a lawyer, but it was the closest I got to that to
Yeah.
just say, I'm in college, I'm studying geological engineering, but I'm not 100% on this because I don't know what this actually looks like when you graduate and then you have to go work 40 plus hours a week. You can have
Mm.
insight to that with internships, but I ended up doing like IT internships because I loved like the internet and understanding it, and I played video games my whole life. So I was like, why don't I make sure that this is not what I want to do? And when I went and did it, both my internships, they were great. Like it was fun. It wasn't wasted time, but I ended up finding out that it's like, okay, this isn't fulfilling. I don't really want to be inside. I don't want
Mm.
to have to just work
Yeah.
with electronics as it's not as fun as it was in my head. But if I
Mm.
didn't explore that, who knows? Maybe I would have gone 6 years into engineering or 10 years and then be like, oh, but I really like the IT side and I like network. So why don't I just switch then? It's like a lot harder to switch
Yeah.
then. So it's important to explore that in
Yeah.
high school and college and hobbies and clubs and activities to know like what is fulfilling, like I said, or contributes to being happy. Because a lot of people will go to high school, to college, university, because that's what they should be doing. That's the society's like
Yeah.
guideline for
Definitely.
you. And you have no time in between to reflect and be like, okay, this is actually what I want to do. It's like, oh, I either have seen my parent or my grandparent or someone close to me have this role. And so that's what I have in my head of options.
Yeah.
So if that's what you're choosing from out of the list of the millions of jobs that you can have, like it's just sad to me that people have to put themselves in a box because
Mm.
really there's so many different jobs even within engineering, within mining, within
Absolutely.
geotech, with within construction materials testing, within geotech, which is what I did in my last job. Like I found out I didn't like it, but it is the literal foundation of what we do and understanding why we do the tests we do, why we verify in construction those tests because they matter. But if you don't know that they matter, how do you know that you could contribute to that?
Mm.
So
Mm.
it's really important to have these conversations so that people can see that we jumped to four different paths, but still in the end arrived where we were meant to be. And
Yeah.
who knows if that's forever? It's kind of like you take it day by day.
Yeah.
But if you're not being introspective and being like, oh, I like this about law, I didn't like this, but I like this about engineering, and now I get to combine it all together, then you're going to be happier that way,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So you got to be introspective the entire time, kind of as you're getting your experiences and not see them as mistakes or wasted time, kind of like what you were saying, because it's telling you stuff about yourself
Yeah.
and guiding your
Totally.
path to be more in line with what's going to be fulfilling, which it's like if someone can get that first try, I am very impressed that they only had to try one different job to be happy the rest of their life and never want to do anything else. Like to me, that's unheard of. But
But are they? But are they? Or
right?
are they afraid?
Are
Are
they
they
just
afraid?
settling?
Yeah.
Exactly. And a lot of the time, that's where like the midlife crises come in, where it's like, were they ever doing it for themselves? Probably not. They felt like they should do it maybe because that's all they knew. They didn't know better.
Mm.
But no wonder they find out they're not living for themselves. They've been living what they thought they should be doing. And then they make the change when they literally can't take it anymore.
Mm.
And I want to help be on the front end and be a little more proactive than reactive and trying to help guide people on the front end so that you still need to spin your wheels, you still need to try different things to find out what's right for you, but to know that that's okay and that it's important to do that gives you a little bit of grace that I feel like people don't really feel like they have because of the pressure of go to high school, go to college, go to university, graduate, contribute to society, your student loans, or,
Yeah.
second you graduate, you got that on your back.
Mm. Yeah.
I don't know if
100%.
you, I went on my soapbox a little bit, but
That's
yeah,
okay. That's all, it's all part of it, really. Um, yeah. So can you, what kind of what's it like for you? Because like I said, we're at kind of the opposite end of our careers, but sort of how did you get to Geovert?
yeah. So I can do this in a quick little summary because I've said it a million times, but um, I went to the School of Mines in Colorado. I'm a Colorado native, so School of Mines has basically only engineering for the most part. Did geological engineering there. I loved rocks. I loved modeling. I loved, even making dirt pies as a kid. So kind of made sense for me to end up in this
Yeah.
this realm of things. And doing geotech, there's geohazards, there's construction materials testing, there's just like the engineering portion. And I tried all of those. Those were my first 5 years of being on contracting or doing contracting and doing consulting, and doing the engineering design, doing field engineering in Louisiana. Like I've tried, different parts of it. And I think I was missing something the whole time. But in school, I didn't know what geohazards looked like or what that realm looked like, separate from being a consultant in buildings. So I had to make a couple steps of, oh, this is what I feel like I want to do at the time being, like dams with Stantec or construction materials testing with Braun, or even software sales. I did that for a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think doing all of those things each time, the step brought me closer to Geovert, because I was slowly weeding things out of like, oh, I like engineering. I love geology. I'm like you. I love geology. I love being outside and having to, figure out the depositional environment, figure out like the different type of failures. I love that. But I didn't get to do any of that really at my other jobs, except for at Stantec when I would do like discontinuity mapping and geological mapping and logging and all that. But that got me into subsurface investigations, which is less geology if you're, drilling in soil, which is what I was doing at Braun. So I had a pretty wide variety of like experiencing every part of geo, except for geo instrumentation. And I don't really want to. I think it's great. But that's what brought me to Geovert, was doing all of those different jobs, finding, good and bad things that I liked about it. And then knowing of Geovert because of the marketing and I'm a big fan of LinkedIn, and I'm on LinkedIn, but I would see all of their Geovert spider equipment and all the different, just super cool rigs that they would use for drilling.
Just
and
the cool shit we do.
Yeah, exactly. Like this cool
Yeah.
shit. Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah,
seeing that, I was like, okay, I showcase what I'm doing on LinkedIn, but I'm like on a flat piece of ground. I'm like trying to just measure how compacted it is and trying to make this the most interesting thing when it's not. But then I look at Geovert and I saw them crawling their spider on the side of the hill and drilling, and I was like, what the hell? Like that's part of that's in my world, like that I could do, that I could be a part of. And I started following Geovert like I think 2 or 3 years ago. And that was like what started, I think, even just Anth and Bree knowing who I was, because I was really big on LinkedIn. But I was always really impressed with Geovert's marketing, because in what we do and geotech as a whole, construction, marketing kind of comes last. So I really appreciate when it is really like crisp and professional looking, and also provides super cool content. So I was like, how do I do what I'm already doing with bringing awareness and showing how, cool and like helpful it is to know what I'm doing with the stuff I was doing at Braun, which is like concrete and just not super exciting. Like, how do I apply that to what Geovert does? And I'm still learning. I'm still trying to figure out where I fit, but I felt like this was the best place for me to apply my skills that I have, my weaknesses and my strengths and my experiences. Because all my experiences, like even making concrete cylinders, that wasn't for nothing. That's still relevant to what we do. It's just a different application. So without having done that and trying the different avenues, I don't think I would be here. So I think you and Anth were a big part of me seeing just greatness at Geovert and what was going on there, and seeing you champion, like I said, and seeing your success and the impact that you had, and me wanting to be like you, basically. So yeah, I think that's the whole part of this.
Be careful what you wish for.
No, I'll never take that back, Baz. I'll never take it back. It's important to see people like you, because then, even if I'm in the industry, but, not just coming out of school, I still aspire to be like you and aspire to have your courage. And even though it's like, yeah, I've already got my foot in the door, I'm already 5 years in and I'm in a male dominated industry, it gives me that renewal of spirit and energy to just keep kicking ass and to just be
Absolutely.
myself and don't even think about it. Like if they're gonna bring it up, yeah, put boundaries down, but don't let that consume your mind of, if they're
Yeah.
saying something
Yeah.
behind your back or if your skinny jeans are too tight for them. Like I stopped caring because I'm like, this doesn't make a difference in how I do my work or how I operate as a
Yeah.
person. And if you have an issue or a comment to say, maybe I'll say it back to you and see how
Oh,
you feel.
absolutely. I've got some stories which I have to tell you
Uh-huh.
offline.
Right. I'm like, we could talk for hours about that, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
important to
definitely.
it's important to do that though, because then it's like, oh, maybe I'm not alone in this and someone else
Totally.
experienced it and you know how to maybe combat it in a way that I've not thought of before because you've experienced it.
Mm. Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm just thinking I've got some memories of the way I responded to particular situations.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and they're probably not right for this forum.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel like me too. And it's tough because it's like you don't want to put anyone on blast or even make yourself seem like you reacted too much. But I feel like that's the thing. It's like we probably aren't reacting or overreacting to their
Totally
comments,
not.
but it's tough to know when to bring that up and when to actually make light of it or to laugh it off because you're uncomfortable and you're like, well, that's like skating the line. It's not going over the line. So maybe I won't report you now, but if you say it again, like that's in my mind, it's hard to sometimes have those firm boundaries to say,
Yeah,
like,
holding the mirror
that's
up
not
to
okay.
bad behavior. Sorry,
Hmm.
holding the mirror up to behavior that makes you feel uncomfortable, and find a way to do that with
In a
humor as well.
calculated way, because it's
Absolutely.
like, yeah, kind of what I said earlier. It's like it makes them be like, oh, shoot, like,
Yeah.
okay, like maybe I shouldn't say that because it doesn't feel great to be either told the same thing or asked the same thing. Like that's the
Mm.
biggest mirror. Is that appropriate? Probably not. And yeah, it takes courage and like a reminder from people like you to just keep doing that.
Yeah.
Because even, I mean, it goes both ways. It's if it's another, even the same gender doing that to you, I feel like it's important to
Absolutely. Yeah.
just play it back. And also
Yeah.
if you are having trouble with that, if you have a boss that you can ask about it, or, just a colleague or someone in the industry that's been through it, get advice from them maybe. Because it's tough if you're in the middle
Totally.
of that situation. You're just feeling everything. Your emotions are crazy. You can't always rationalize or logically think about the best way to, one, escape that situation, but also make sure it doesn't happen again.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah. We can't control other people. We can only control our responses to a situation.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's figuring out the best way to respond for you. That's going to make you feel empowered. It's going to make you feel okay. Maybe send a message, send a signal. Yeah, there's so many different ways to do that depending on the situation.
Thank you for the time tonight, Maz. It was really nice hearing your perspective and just hearing more about your experiences and in the mining industry and the construction industry. If anyone wants advice or has any questions, feel free to reach out to Maz on LinkedIn or me, Hannah Thomas on LinkedIn. Um, we'll probably be tagged somewhere. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. All
Yeah,
right. Well,
well, thank you for, no, I wanted to say thank you. Thank you for the opportunity and thank you for your questions because it's just really nice to share some of what I've picked up over the years. And, I'm always here for you to talk to and ask questions of as well.
yes.
This is what it's about.